Brothers and sisters, you can do nothing without the presence of God. And do not attempt to do anything without the presence of God. What does that verse, John 15:5 say? I am the vine. Jesus writes, I am the vine. You are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. Tony Merida, my brother's pastor, has a commentary on this passage. Says, let us be desperate. We have a need we cannot overlook. We have a privilege we must not neglect. We have an assignment we cannot complete. You can't do it. Folks, I would argue this, and you need to commit this, write this down. I'm going to put it up here. This statement is very important. A Christian who is not dependent on the presence of God is either doing the work of man and calling it the work of God, or doing the work of God with the strength of man. The only reason a Christian is not dependent on the presence of God is because he is doing the work of man and calling it the work of God. Oh yeah, God is in my work. No, he's actually not doing God's will at all for his life. Or he is doing the work of God, but he's not doing it with God's strength. He's doing it with his own. Those are the only choices you've got. You must learn to be dependent on the presence of God. You must learn to do so. I pray that we have a church that is so dependent on the presence of God that if we don't sense him with us, we don't move. Amen. What if we all did this? We must be a people that are so dependent on the presence of God. Until we know it's there, we don't move. Don't move from this place today until you know you have the presence of God. If I see any of you sitting here after everybody's left, I know why. I'll come and pray with you. Hudson Taylor writes, before he left for China, he says, our great desire and aim, Mr. Taylor had written of the new mission, are to plant the standard of the cross in the 11 provinces of China hitherto unoccupied, and in Chinese Tartary. A foolhardy business, said those who saw only difficulties. A superhuman task, sighed others who wished them well. And many even of their friends could not be but anxious. You will be forgotten, was the concern of some, with no committee or organization before the public, because he was going actually with no, his mission, the China Inland Mission, would incur no debt. They would do no debt, and they would never ask for money. That was his commitment. I will go to China and I will never ask anyone for money. God knows my needs. He can figure it out. And people in his prayer meeting had problems with that. You will be forgotten, was the concern of some, with no committee or organization before the public. You will be lost sight of in that distant land. Claims are many nowadays. Before long, you may find yourselves without even the necessaries of life. This is what he said. I am taking my children with me, was the quiet answer. And notice it is not difficult to remember that they need breakfast in the morning, dinner at midday, they're English, and supper at night. Indeed, I could not forget them if I tried, and I find it impossible to think that our Heavenly Father is less tender and mindful of his children than I, a poor earthly father, am of mine. No, he will not forget us. Are you dependent on the presence of God today? Are you dependent on the presence of God always? Taylor also writes, I trust we are all fully satisfied that we are God's servants, sent by him to the various posts we occupy, and that we are doing his work in them. He set before us the open doors we have entered, and in past times of excitement he has preserved us. We did not come to China because missionary work here was either safe or easy, but because he has called us. We did not enter upon our present positions under a guarantee of human protection, but relying on the promise of his presence.